Okay, so I want to tell a little story about this thing that happened one time when I was living in Tiberia in Israel. It's not really supposed to be a funny story, but it's one that just has to be told. And out of the 13,242 days I've been alive as of this recording, this has to qualify as the craziest one. I don't know how anything can top it. So it's February 2015. I'm living in the Arazim, the absorption center that the Israeli government puts up new immigrants in when they first get here. If you've heard my other story, Expired Cadaver, about Lee, you know a little bit about the Arazim. And there's this guy named David Sneer who I'd originally met at an Ulpan that I was at outside of Haifa. This Ulpan was fucking awful. I only stayed 4 or 5 days and left. I just couldn't take the place anymore. But, we became kind of friends over those few days. I thought he was a pretty cool guy, nice guy, whatever. Somehow, small world, David Sneer ends up at the Arazim with me. He's not living in my apartment. He's in like apartment downstairs. But, I saw him almost every day. And originally he was from Venezuela. Father was from Venezuela. His father was Israeli. His mother was Venezuelan. So this guy spoke English, Spanish, and Hebrew all fluent, like native fluency. And again, he seemed pretty cool. I never had a problem with the guy. I considered him a friend. Until the day that the Ulpan director, Anya, this Ukrainian girl, decided to move him into my room and make him my roommate. And we both had this feeling, even in the beginning, it was a bad idea. You get that gut feeling. And we both told Anya, like, I don't think this is going to work. We just have a gut feeling. No, can you put us in different rooms? And she's like, you guys are friends. Come on, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And we protested again. And she goes, look, I don't have anywhere else to put you right now. You're just going to have to be roommates and deal with it. So like, fine, whatever. How bad could it be? Ha! And I'll tell you. Because basically the first day we were together, from the first day, I already realized this guy was really OCD. Talking like Adrian Monk type shit. Washing his hands all the time. Everything has to be in an exact order. Blah, blah, blah. Or he would get pissed off. He'd get triggered. And after a few days, it really started to annoy me. Just having to deal with the OCD all the time. So I started making fun of him for it. Like, hey, you washing your hands again? What is that, like 30 times already? Like, come on. Like, what's wrong with you? Why are you so OCD? And you could tell that was starting to piss him off now. But it just kept going. And then finally it got to the point where I was trying to get this guy to fight me. I straight up wanted him to punch me so I'd have an excuse to beat his ass. And he had this little thing where he would get pissed off if anybody closed the door too loudly. Well, I started closing the door like as hard as I could just to piss him off. Until the day that I'm sitting in our room, sitting on my bed, I hear the front door to the apartment open and then slam shut. And he comes storming into the room, right? Now, I knew this guy was just like a skinny pussy. I knew he couldn't fight. I could beat this guy's ass. But he goes, hey, man, you slam the fucking door again, man? You slam the door again like that, I'm gonna break your fucking face! Like, he screamed it at me just like that. And I'm like, oh yeah? Why don't you do it, bitch? And he just like starts punching me in the face, right? Over and over. Because I was like sitting down and not really expecting it. But he hit like a girl. So none of the punches did anything. Because, if you heard my Oleg story, I could definitely take a punch. And Oleg punched like 50 times harder than this guy. So, I mean, this was like massage. And finally, I get on my feet, and it takes me about 15 seconds to wrestle this guy to the ground and pin him down. And I put my knee in his neck and I'm like, you done now? Huh? You done now, David? You had enough? He's like, okay, man. Okay, man. You win. You win. And, you win this time, but next time I know be so nice. Next time you know win, man. I'm like, whatever. Like, this guy's not gonna do shit. No. He walks into the kitchen, gets a knife, right? It's like a small knife. And he doesn't, like, come at me, but he kind of points it at me with his, like, arm extended, like, kind of waving it at me. He goes, hey, man, I'm gonna cut you, man. I'm gonna cut your stomach when you're sleeping, man. You better watch out. What the fuck? This guy is like a genuine psycho. None of us ever saw this coming. What the fuck? Wow. Oh, I had no idea. Oh, that was just the tip of the iceberg. Well, my friend Victor walks in just at that moment, right? Victor is someone who became my best friend in Israel. This guy I talked to almost every day. And he also happened to be like 6 feet tall, about 300 pounds at the time. Just big, intimidating guy, intimidating man. And I guess he also knew a little bit of like martial arts or whatever too, on top of it. So he walks straight up to David Sneer and just grabs the knife right out of his hand, fearless. Like he could have been stabbed. I mean, what could have happened? He goes, give me that. And he does this like karate move and just boom, just takes it right out of his hand. He goes, take a walk, David. Take a walk now. He goes, okay, man. Okay, I'm leaving. I'm going to take a walk. And I'm thinking, this guy's going to be back. In like 10 or 15 minutes, he's going to come back with another knife. I could just feel it. So, lo and behold, like 15 minutes later, I'm in the apartment with Lee. And we're in like Lee's room. Thank God the door was open so we could see it coming. But apartment door flies open and David Sneer walks in with this huge knife. Must have been like a 10 or a 12-inch like butcher knife. And he's got it raised straight over his head. I mean, from a fucking slasher film, right? Like Jason or something. And he's got this empty, like, psycho look in his eyes. Just like empty eyes. And he's just like walking towards us with this fucking, like I said, raised over his head. And in those few seconds, I'm like, I got a choice to make. I've taken martial arts. I've done gun defense, knife defense. I could probably disarm him. But if I miss, I could be dead. I could be a dead hero. I said, well, I don't want to be a dead hero. So I decided, fuck it. I'll be a living pussy. So I just closed the door to Lee's room and held it closed with my foot. And he's just trying to kick the door in. He's trying to kill me, obviously. And then he just really freaks out. And he goes, open the fucking door, you piece of shit! Open the fucking door, I'm gonna kill you, you piece of shit! And we're like, what the fuck? And he's like kicking the door as hard as he can. But again, he was a weak little pussy. And he couldn't kick the door in. I was able to just hold it with my foot. And then he would get tired. He'd go out in the hallway, like stalk up and down the hallway for a few minutes with a knife, get a second win, come back and try again. Open the fucking door, you piece of shit! And he was screaming this so loud, like the whole building could hear him. All our neighbors in our hallway. And so that, yeah, he'd try to kick the door in again. Then he'd go back out in the hallway with the knife again. And I was afraid to come out of the room and try and close the front door because I didn't know where he was. So I stayed in the room. And at this point, all our neighbors are poking their heads out. There's families, moms with kids living in there. They must have been terrified. Seeing this psycho just pacing up and down with a huge knife, like foaming at the mouth. Then finally, I figured he was far enough away so I could close the front door. And yeah, finally a bunch of people in the building ended up calling the police. Israeli police. They show up real quick. I mean, they're there within like a couple of minutes, 2 minutes maybe. And unlike in the U.S., where this guy would have been on the ground in handcuffs, right? Immediately, they probably would have tased the shit out of him too. Even if he dropped the knife, they would have tased him just for the fuck of it. No, not only did they not handcuff him, nothing. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? This guy just tried to kill me. That's attempted murder. He doesn't even get put in handcuffs. No, they just took him by the elbow and led him to the patrol car. And the crazy part was, he comes back downstairs, looks right at me, and goes, "Hey, sorry, man. It wasn't even a real apology. It was like the way you apologize to somebody when you like fucking step on their foot or something. You spill something on them. It's like, hey man, sorry man. Like what the fuck? Like that made it even worse. Rather no apology at all. So then I have to go to the police station and the cops asked me if I want to press charges. And for a second I thought no. And then I realized, what am I doing? If I let this guy out today, what's to stop him from getting another knife and coming back and killing me when I'm sleeping tonight? He probably has another copy of the key. He can just let himself in and just stab my ass to death. Nah, this guy needs to be put away where he can't hurt anybody else, at least for a while. So I agree to press charges. They lock him up in the jail there in Tveria. I'm going to have to go back the next day to like do it again and complete the process. I'm in this fucking police station for about 7 or 8 hours all day long. It never ended. I had to have witnesses come in and give like sworn statements. I had to give them a statement. They had to have a guy translate it into Hebrew from English because I didn't speak really any Hebrew at the time. Not good enough to talk to the cops. And another thing was, we had this guy named Sender, right? You remember him from the Lee story. Well, Sender was upstairs. David Sneer walks in there and goes, "Hey, can I borrow a knife? I want to get it to kill David." And Sender either thought it was a joke and is like, "Whatever, bro. What do you need it for cooking? The knife's over there." Or the guy just really, really hated me because I used to wake him up from snoring. Including the time I screamed directly in his ear, "Shut the fuck up." Maybe he didn't care I was going to get stabbed. But yeah, Sender lets him take the knife. And he actually text messaged Sender, David Sneer. He's like, "Hey, can I get this knife?" And we presented it to the cops as evidence. But he didn't say David Levy, right? And the cop looks at me and goes, "Hey, you guys are both named David. How do I know you didn't say that you wanted a knife to kill him? How do I know which David it is?" And I was like, oops. Because you know what? I'm going to be nice and forget this ever happened. Just let's forget about this, okay? It's like, okay. Thank you very much. But here's the really fucked up part. Despite it being clearly that he tried to kill me, it was a clear case of like assault with a deadly weapon, attempted murder. Tried to kill me with a huge knife. Me having multiple witnesses signing sworn statements. No witnesses at all on his side. I had everything on my side, right? They fucking put me under house arrest. They're like, "We can't really prove you tried to kill David Sneer because he claimed the knife was self-defense against me." Yeah, okay. Fucking lying piece of shit. But they're like, "We're going to put you under house arrest for 5 days. You cannot leave your house or you can actually be arrested." Are you fucking kidding me? Wow. This is the closest. I've never been to jail before. This is the closest I ever come to actually being in jail. Yeah. And I mostly stayed inside for those 5 days. I didn't really have any reason to leave. And I was afraid in a small town like Tveria, I'd run into the same cop that just put me on house arrest, see me walking down the street, and I'd be screwed. So like, you know what? Fuck it, forget it. So I just dealt with it. And meanwhile, they sent Sneer to a mental institution. In the U.S., he would be in jail. They don't care how mentally ill you are. You're going to jail or prison with everybody else. In Israel, they will put you in a psych ward. But I guess they let you use your phone even when you're in there because he would frequently call us, right? Just for no reason, like, hey, what's up? Who's this? Oh, it's David Sneer. How you doing? He would never have the balls to call me, but he would call Victor and he would call Lee and some other people. And Victor's like, I just fucking heard from David Sneer again. Are you kidding me? It's like the 5th time he's called you. In like the last month. He's like, I know. But thank God after that he stopped calling all of us, period. And I don't know what happened to that guy. But if I ever see him again, you better believe me his ass is going to be in a fucking wheelchair. Maybe permanently. He will not be walking, at least for a while. Yeah. So, that was my little, really crazy story about my former roommate, David Sneer, who was really OCD. And we ended up getting in a fight over it. I ended up beating his ass. And he ended up being a very sore loser and trying to come back and kill me with a huge knife. What a guy. What a fucking guy.